This is KGW News at noon.
Good afternoon, I'm Drew Carney, and we'll start this afternoon with Portland Public Schools' weekly COVID testing program for students. It's a program that hasn't been happening at the majority of schools in the district. Officials with Portland Public Schools say the delay is due to supply chain issues. So this video we're showing you right here was taken at Whitman Elementary earlier this month when the district started its COVID testing program. But again, right now, about 75% of the schools in the district still don't have any test kits.
Some of our schools are ready, but because of the supply distribution issues, we are waiting until we get some of those like labels, coolers. Some of those things have been ordered, they just haven't arrived yet for OHSU. So it's just a matter of supply and demand.
So we reached out to OHSU, who's partnering with Portland Public Schools to analyze the tests. An OHSU spokesperson says their lab has plenty of capacity right now, and the only shortage they're aware of is labels. OHSU also says that shortage of labels should have only delayed the COVID testing at schools by a few days at most. Meanwhile, later tonight, the Portland Public School Board will discuss another way to keep students safe. The topic on the table tonight is a vaccine mandate for kids 12 and older. Last week, parents had the chance to share their opinions about this proposal. Students also had a chance to weigh in during a special listening session last week. Tonight's meeting starts at 6. Portland Public Schools says depending on what happens tonight, the board could vote on the vaccine mandate as soon as next week. An FDA advisory panel is also meeting today about COVID shots for younger kids. During this meeting, the FDA could give the green light to Pfizer's vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11. Moderna has also announced that its COVID shots work for kids 6 to 11. KGW's Alma McCarty spoke with a local pediatrician about the conversations that she's having right now with families.
Parents looking for reassurance and understanding bring their questions involving the COVID vaccine and their kids to experts like Dr. Malika Little, a pediatric clinical infectious disease specialist for Randall Children's Hospital.
I think there's a huge range that people are worried about. And really, to me, there's some positive in that, because what that means is everybody's thinking about their kids first. Right. So I partly chose to be a pediatrician because I think we take better care of our kids than we do of ourselves.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, pediatricians have fielded a lot of questions, and now even more so with the potential approval of the vaccine for even more kids just on the horizon.
It's pretty important we don't generalize it and say, hey, here's what other people are worried about, but really, what are you worried about in your kid? I mean, every kid is a little bit different. And for some parents, it's really basic, right? Their kid has a terrible time with flu shots and they're just nervous for the actual vaccine. With some parents, it's a far more extended, gosh, this is new. I don't know if it's been out yet. I don't really want to be first.
Dr. Little says health experts across the board know much more than they did a year ago. What she's seen personally is encouraging.
I do feel very confident as an infectious disease specialist with the amount of disease that we're seeing, with the amount of experience we have had with these vaccines, and really based on the decades of time and intention people have put into these technologies, that these are incredibly important tools for us to have moving forward and really are the secret to getting us back to having a normal childhood, which is what we want for all these kids.
Her advice for those families still cautious and curious: ask your family doctor or pediatrician and listen to well-informed experts working tirelessly to move everyone out of this pandemic.
Again, that was KGW's Alma McCarty reporting. Our next story here at noon comes from Canada, and this container ship that you see behind me, it's called the Zim Kingston. That ship was up near Victoria, British Columbia when it caught fire over the weekend. Experts say weather is likely to blame. The container ship caught fire Saturday morning during some of that rough weather when one or two stacks of containers on the ship actually collapsed. Columbia River bar pilot Dan Jordan spent his early career on container ships and has a pretty good idea of what happened on that ship.
If that bottom container gets to moving, we call it racking, from side to side too much, those corner posts can collapse and then the whole stack comes down, which can cause sparks or expose the contents of the container to the elements.
Pretty wild scene up there in British Columbia. 40 containers on that ship ended up going overboard. Jordan said something like this usually happens in rough weather. And this weekend, he experienced the stormy weather around here up close. So this is video of Jordan being lowered onto a ship that he was going to pilot across the Columbia Bar. But because of the high winds and rough water, it took 2 tries to get him safely on board that ship. Well, after an oil spill in Milwaukee, crews are working to rescue ducks that live in Kellogg Creek. That's what we're showing you right here. A fire at a car dealership's service shop caused an oil drum to leak into a storm drain that flows into that creek. So DEQ says crews will be working on this for the next few days. They should be finished up cleaning that oil spill, though, within the next week. Right now, we want to follow up on some of the damage from this weekend storm around the metro area. This large tree we're showing you fell on top of a home in Milwaukee. This is on Southeast Addy Street near McLaughlin. No one was hurt, thankfully, but obviously, as you can see from this video, there was a lot of damage to that house, which we were told is more than 100 years old. And along the Oregon coast this weekend, we saw a lot of people bracing for that storm. And then yesterday, we finally saw some people heading back outside. They were getting a closer look at the waves. You can see that in this video. This was during, of course, the tail end of the storm as the high winds and the heavy rain started to move out. Some of those people we ran into were from out of state. They told us they had never seen a storm like this one.
It's been crazy. Yeah, the wind shook the area that we were staying at. I checked, it was 30 miles per hour.
Almost like a whiteout. Like we were able to, like she said, we were at the store, and all of a sudden I just looked outside, and when I just heard it pounded on the roof, and it just looked outside, and it looked like as if it was snowing.
Not snowing yet around here, just raining a whole lot. Lots of wind too, right? Well, despite the heavy winds and the high surf over the weekend, we haven't heard of any major damage along the coast. All right, Chris, busy man the last couple of days tracking all that weather. What do you have for us right now?
An angry ocean the last couple of days as well. Things are quieting down a little bit. We'll take you live to Newport right now. This is the live look from the Yaquina Bay bridge camera here. And you can see the boats bopping around in the breeze just a little bit, but not as much as they were this morning, and certainly not as much as they were yesterday at this time. Right now, the breeze in Newport is sustained out of the southwest at 13 miles an hour. Newport has seen gusts as high as 44 miles an hour today. In the metro area, atop the Fremont Bridge, that's up a little bit, but we're seeing some winds on the order of about 21 miles an hour right now. And the big picture across the state showing the wind is not nearly the issue now as it was yesterday, and certainly not Sunday. So we're happy to tell you that. Of course, it will be still a little breezy out there. Futurecast does suggest southwest winds on the order of about 15-20 miles an hour in the valley. All right, rainfall. We're kind of back to that more gentle, kinder Oregon rain, right? We've had about 0.07 of an inch of rain so far at PDX. The coast is obviously seeing quite a bit more, approaching 1/2 inch in Astoria. Meanwhile, up on the mountain, we are down to bare pavement at Government Camp. More on that in just a bit. But Drew, I can tell you the rain that we have out there right now will be kind of ongoing with the showers for the rest of this afternoon. We'll get a look at that and a look to a forecast for the holiday weekend that still looks dry. More on that in a minute.